This is Teen Quest Live, where we create online conversations about youth culture, parenting, and issues facing youth workers in today's world. Our host, Mark Witt, has served as a pastor and youth pastor in multiple churches, and he's the founder and director of Teen Quest, a youth ministry that creates peak experiences for youth groups and teenagers through camping, events, missions, and evangelism. Welcome to Teen Quest Live.
Hi, are short-term missions just centered around going places out of your city or state or even country? Can we experience missions in our back door, in our community, or in our city? Today we're going to talk about community-based mission trips based from your church. My guest today is Shane Ballenstein from Crossroads Church in Elliott City, Maryland. Good having you, Shane. Where's Elliott City, Maryland?
It's about 15 minutes outside of Baltimore, so right outside the city.
North, east, south, west?
It's a little north.
A little north, all right. Now tell me a little bit about your church. How big is it? What kind of a church is it?
We have about, on an average weekly weekend attendance, we have about like 600, 650 or so between three services that we have. It's right in a pretty good community, Howard County, Maryland. Schools right around the area, so it's a good little place to be.
Now, what about you? How long have you been in ministry, and how long have you been at the church?
I have been in ministry for 7 years. I'm 26 now. I started when I was 19, and I actually grew up in this church. So it's pretty cool to be a part of the youth group when I was younger, and now I'm working in the church as I got a little older.
That's fantastic. Now, is your goal to be a career youth minister, or are you going to jump to something else? Are you going to downsize to something else?
I haven't given too much thought to that because I love what I'm doing at the moment. I love working with teenagers. I wouldn't rule anything out, but as of now in the near future, I love where I'm at. I want to work with youth ministry for as long as God has me placed here.
Yeah. Do you believe in missions? Do you believe that missions is important, and why?
Yes, of course. I believe missions is a very, very important aspect to youth ministry, but not just youth ministry, but to the church as a whole.
Okay, and we're talking about missions. Does missions have to be out of your city? Can missions be in the back door? Can missions be down the street? Can missions be in the local high school? Does it have to be across the world or a different country? Tell me about it.
No, of course not. Missions can be in your very own church if there are people who need help. Missions can be right down the road. I think it's great to be working in the high schools and in your local city and in your local community. It's just as valuable because I believe that at times we can lose sight of our own local community because we want to have a great trip out of town or out of the state or out of the country, which are all wonderful aspects of missions, but there's just as much work that needs to be done in our local community as well as abroad or international and nationally.
So how would you define missions locally? What would you say missions would be locally?
I believe that missions locally looks like getting in the town and making a difference in your local community through service. It's hard in today's world where a lot of times we will do things and still expect something in return. So establishing the attitude of complete service, no matter what that looks like, no matter what that feels like, and no matter what we get in return, is absolutely huge. And so I believe that what it looks like for our local community is serving without any other sort of agenda or an ulterior motive. Serving just to serve.
Let me challenge you on that for a moment. What about the Boy Scouts? The Boy Scouts go out and they do service projects. I'm sure there's a lot of community organizations that do service projects. Are they doing missions?
Yes, I do believe that they're doing missions.
Okay. And what distinguishes the missions from the church differently than the Boy Scouts or community serving?
Well, I believe that the difference would be when you're serving for the church is showing the love of God and loving on people without just hold on, you kind of stumped me on this one for a second. Okay, so the Boy Scouts, when they serve, they do a great job, and they're serving without an ulterior motive. They're serving just to bless, and I do believe that that's missions. When the church goes out and serves, I believe that it is an I don't have an answer. I don't know.
Would you? Okay, let me say this. Would you say that when the church goes out and does missions, we are presenting Christ to the community? I mean, we may be building a building or helping the poor people or serving, but we're also presenting Christ in that mission. I mean, Christ is the element that would define a true biblical mission in the local community. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's talk about specific ideas in relation to local missions. Do you guys do any kind of local mission trips in your community based from your church?
Yeah, something that we have established within our youth group is something that we call Earthworks. And it's not say a week-long trip or a couple days, but we do it about once a month. And the whole idea is just to serve in our local community. And so we've done a few different things. We've been doing it for about a year to a year and a half now, and it's gone really great. The first thing that we did actually was work within our church on the church campus, in cleaning out areas and different rooms. And we have a garage area in the back, and just getting in and getting our hands dirty and serving just to serve. And we don't serve for community service hours. We haven't served for any other reason but to serve and represent the love that God has for all of us.
Okay. Now, how could you serve the community and also present Christ to the folks in your community, in your greater area?
I believe that it's the attitude that we have while doing it. The last Earthworks that we did, we went to a local soup kitchen down in Baltimore City, and the people that we encountered there could tell that the teenagers that we brought and the adults that we brought had an attitude of excitement and joy and love, and giving up a few hours on a Saturday morning, which isn't ideal, but they were doing it and having a blast doing it. So people noticed that we were excited about it and that the students were excited, and they would talk to us. What makes you guys different? Because they had plenty of people coming in and serving in the soup kitchen. It wasn't just churches. It's people throughout the whole city, throughout the whole area, come in and serve to help people out. But they noticed a difference between us and maybe some other people who served in the past, because we're just excited and happy and talking to people and looking forward to doing this because we have a greater joy. So that creates some conversation and some discussion that we were able to have with the other people, not just the people that we were serving there, but the people we were serving with and working alongside as well.
If you were speaking to a youth pastor right now and they were thinking of trying to do something locally, maybe they're not ready to take a trip out west or a trip to Canada or Mexico or South America or Europe or whatever, but they really want to get their kids started in real local missions. I mean, like in the neighborhood. What would be the steps? What would you do? What would you tell them? Very practically, detailed stuff. What would you tell them to help them get started with reaching out from the church? What would you tell them?
I think that the first step would just be to look at your community. See what sort of things need to be done within your local community. For example, for us, there's a street that's close by that kind of goes down into woods and close to a lake, and trash just builds up. So our thought was, let's just go and pick up all this trash that's on the road. So it's seeing the things that need to be done in the area around you, and if it is your local community, hopefully you have a good feel for the things that are going on around you, maybe at the local high school, the events that are going on, or the local middle school or elementary school, those sort of things, and seeing what's going on around you and figuring out what can we do to better our community, to further our community, and then talking to different people, talking to local nursing homes, local soup kitchens, local schools, like I said before. Those are the first steps to get started into doing mission work within your local community.
I know here at Teen Quest, every summer we take students to Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which is a good 35 minutes from us. The big flood city, you know. We take them down there, and we work with a poor family, and then in the evening we get a chance to go out and go into the nursing homes and children's homes, and we do two kinds of missions. One is like a work team. The other is a ministry team. So we actually train students to do work in the community, and then at the same time we teach them how to do ministry, drama, music, that type of thing. Yeah. And it really revolutionizes students as they do that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I really believe there's great opportunities in our neighborhood, and I think it's a great way to start teaching our students about missions. Do you believe that missions is a biblical mandate?
Of course I do. One of the Great Commission that Jesus gave us, go out and make disciples of all nations. That was one of the last things that he said before he left. So mission is absolutely vital. It's huge to the church. If we don't go out and if we don't reach out to people that aren't within the four walls of the church, how will the church grow? And so I believe it's extremely important to go out and do mission work.
What can you say to students who are interested? Maybe they come every Sunday and they're not mission-minded at all. They don't think about missions. They don't think. I remember as a kid, I used to think of missionaries or people who couldn't do anything else. They just went overseas and did their thing. I didn't know what a missionary really was until I got older, and then I realized, wow, these people are the cream of the crop. They're awesome. They're changing lives. They're changing the world. What do you say to a student that comes to your youth group? How do you get them interested in the idea of missions? What do you tell them?
Well, the first thing that I would do before I talk to the specific student about doing it is I talk to my leaders, my core team of students within the youth group. Because youth ministry, when it comes to it, as every youth pastor has come to realize very quickly, if you have the core students behind you, then that makes everything else much easier. So I talk to my core students, my core leaders that I see in the youth group that other students look up to, and I met with them once a month, and we had a leadership team, and I got them on my side, got them behind me. So when it came to encouraging other students to get involved in mission work, I had my core leaders encourage the students as well as myself. So it wasn't just coming from the youth pastor, but rather it was coming from their peers and their friends that they look up to and that they can relate to. So after those students would talk to them, I expressed to them how important it is for us to reach out to others, just as I talked about a minute ago, and the importance of us as Christians loving other people besides those within our church. And we want to be a mission-oriented sort of church, and that attitude is to be instilled within the youth group, not just the adults of the church.
Awesome. Well, I sure appreciate talking to you, Shane, about this very topic. And I know that there are youth pastors watching right now and others who may be interested in doing missions around their church's community. I'm sure it's important that you do have your pastor and the youth leaders from the church that are behind doing missions locally, and I'm sure that will lead to greater opportunities around the world for your students. And maybe God would raise up a kid from the group that would become a career missionary someday and go out and serve the Lord somewhere in the world, whether it's the United States or around the world. So that's awesome.
Yes,
thank you so much for being a part of our program today and sharing your thoughts on church support reaching the local community.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
And this is Mark Witt with Teen Quest Live. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on Teen Quest Live with Mark Witt. You know, the discussion is just starting. You can visit our website and leave your comments and thoughts about this topic. Find us online at teenquest.org. That's teenquest.org. And we'll see you next time on Teen Quest Live.